So once you're done, once you've recorded 50 or 100 or 200 demonstrations, examples of good movements, you can go to the main screen and send the data off to the cloud for generalization. And then after 5 hours or so, the new skill will arrive and you can test it on the robot and see if you got everything right, starting from the camera configuration, the camera parameters, and also the demonstrations you gave were useful for inferring how a good movement looks like from camera images. So the way to test the skill is use the now newly blue Test and Configure Skill button. Again, this is a relative skill, right? So we're not caring about the reference position. We just use manual positioning and put it where we want it to be. Calibrate sensor, hands off while you're doing it, otherwise you'll get drift. So this looks like a solvable problem, right? We have the information. Here's the big one. We're going to try and start the skill execution and just see if it solves it. And it does. Let's try it again. Different configuration, maybe like so. Calibrate and start skill execution. And then, yeah, this looks good again. Yep, it solved it. Now you may notice it doesn't stop by itself, right? I need to tell it to stop. That's no good for production. So at some point, I would want it to know by itself when the control flow is supposed to go back to the program that the MirrorEye skill is embedded in. And that's what the configure end state threshold dialog is for. We have 3 different types of end states that we can configure. The first one is the simplest one, the visual end state, which is a trigger for the camera essentially saying, this looks like we're done. And in such a case, we would hand back control to Polyscope. There's the force-based end state trigger. So you can configure control flow to be returned to Polyscope if forces are below or above a certain predefined threshold. In this case, it's 0.65 newtons. Or you can configure a speed-based threshold, which allows you to hand back control flow to Polyscope if the movement of the to a center point ends up being slower than 20 millimeters a second, which is what I have configured here. And then you can also just configure timeouts, and you can configure a delay, so that when you have a skill that starts slowly, you don't trigger the speed-based end state in the beginning.